Now we are told that the Iranian passenger jet that had a bomb threat call on board while in the Indian airspace has now landed at its destination in Guangzhou in China. So we told you that the plane is going to land about 2:30 p.m. That is the time. It has finally landed in China, in Guangzhou. This is the latest that we are picking up. We also told you how the Indian Air Force is closely monitoring the situation when it comes to this particular passenger jet of Iran that was on its way to China. Now we are told that's finally landed at its destination. We'll try to ascertain the facts and we'll try to connect the dots after we got that press communication from the Indian Air Force. Clearly, things had been made clear when it comes to that communication that the Indian authorities received from Tehran, where they said that India can go ahead and disregard this entire threat call. This was the communication that Indian authorities received from Iran. So after that is why the plane was allowed to go through that Indian airspace for 1.5 to 2 hours into Myanmar and then further into China. Now we are told that the plane has finally landed. We have seen the high drama that escalated and ensued right when this plane with proper communication of a possible bomb on board was moving into the Indian airspace. My colleague Anand Narasimhan is joining us on the broadcast. Anand, finally the plane is landed in China. What happens now? Anand, if you can hear me.
That is, yes, I can. WRM W581 or the IRM 081. This is the flight. And if you look carefully, it started off from Tehran, flew over Iran, Afghanistan, little bit of the Afghanistan airspace, a lot of the Pakistan airspace, and then when it comes to New Delhi, this is where there is a bomb scare and an emergency landing request that is made by the flight by the pilot. The pilot does a go around. He actually does a go around in this flight path, and this is when the aircraft is at about 35,000 feet. They actually drop altitude to about 27,000 feet with the intention to try and make an approach to land, hoping that the ATC will actually give it permission. But what it does is it does a go around over the Delhi airport and just circles the Delhi airport waiting for the ATC clearance. The ATC then turns around and says, you can't land in Delhi, but we can allow you to land and make an emergency landing if the situation is dire because you're claiming a bomb threat. You can land in Jaipur. But the pilot, what he does, and now we have got the official communication, the pilot, what he does is he says no. He does another go flying around and does a circle around the Delhi airport above it, and then turns back into the actual flight path. Now, we are given to understand now, subsequently, there are jets that are scrambled. The Sukhoi 30 jets are scrambled from Jodhpur also to try and look at this aircraft and this passenger aircraft because it is on the Indian airspace and there is a bomb threat aboard this aircraft. But what the pilot then says is the pilot actually communicated saying, ignore the bomb threat. Ignore the scare, ignore it. That's what was communicated. And thereafter, this flight, after making two rounds around the New Delhi International Airport airspace, actually turns back and follows its entire flight path or actual intended flight path at that height. Now, this is what you see. It's actually dropped to 28,000 feet as it is making its second circle around the Delhi airport. This is when the communication with the ATC is happening. The aircraft is waiting to make an emergency landing. This is that entire 45 minutes, 35 to 40 minutes above the Delhi airspace when this entire incident has happened on board that Mahan Air aircraft. It's an Airbus, the A340-642. That's the make of the Airbus. It is now, you see, at 28,000 feet. This is where it is. This is at 4 a.m. UTC. But what it's doing is it is actually dropping altitude with the intention to try and land. But then after it makes the second round, it then gets back and starts climbing up, goes back up to 37,000 feet. That's the intended flying height, and then carries on onto its path all the way up to Guangzhou. So it flies over the Indian airspace, over Lucknow and in Bihar, and then moves over Bangladesh, then back on Tripura, that is Indian airspace, and then gets into Myanmar, flies all the way across Myanmar without any incident, and now it's touched down in Guangzhou. So that's what's happened. But the communication that came, now you see this, as it was at the Indian airspace and over Delhi, it actually dropped altitude to by 10,000 feet to about 28,000 feet. And then it dropped down further. It dropped down further to about 20,000 feet, 21,000 feet. See, it's dropping altitude. And
Right.
this is where it then turns around, does one more go around, and then flies back and climbs altitude. So this is the entire drama that happened about 45 to 50 minutes over the Indian airspace before the communication was sent back by the pilot to the ATC, saying that ignore the bomb threat, all is well, and then it continues onto its flight path, and now it's eventually touched down in Guangzhou.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Anand. So now it is China's problem. We'd have to see the kind of security protocol that China really goes ahead and takes care of while the passengers are now all landed in Guangzhou, like Anand was mentioning. We have tracked all the developments when it comes to this big drama that emanated on air while this particular Iranian passenger flight moved into the Indian airspace on the way to China.